Connor Hayes smirked, extending his arm to block Malik Bennett the moment he stepped onto the deck. "This area's not for you. Go downstairs," he snapped, a hint of contempt lacing his voice. Before Malik could respond, a sudden swipe of Connor's hand struck his shoulder. Malik staggered, slipping slightly on the polished wood floor. A crimson cocktail on a nearby tray toppled, the cold liquid splashing directly onto his face and pristine white shirt. Glass shattered with a jarring clink, drawing a few giggles from nearby guests. Malik froze, droplets sliding down his chin, yet his gaze remained steady. Connor crossed his arms, exhaling as if he'd just taught an intruder a lesson. In that fleeting, heavy moment, all music, all the sound of the waves seemed swallowed. Curious eyes surrounded them. The black man in the soaking shirt looked like an outsider, a trespasser. Connor savored the small sense of power, as if the entire Yacht Deek were his private stage. But in Malik's eyes, there was something else. No submission, just a quietly smoldering fire waiting for the right moment to ignite. No one knew that this seemingly humiliating scene was merely the prelude to a turn of events that would shake the entire ship. Connor lingered, circling like a fox with prey. He glanced at Gavin Moore, the deck manager, and gave a nudge with a laugh. "See, this type never understands the rules here." Gavin didn't protest. He just nodded, raised his glass to a nearby table of elegantly dressed guests, then turned away, leaving Malik as if he didn't exist. The cold dismissal created an invisible boundary, one side worthy, the other excluded. Malik wiped his face with the wet sleeve, saying nothing. His eyes flicked to Connor, then rested on the empty chair by the railing, the perfect spot to enjoy the sea view. There was no plea in his gaze, only quiet acknowledgement as if observing a child's behavior. Connor stepped closer, deliberately blocking the path. Half teasing, half commanding, he said, "That chair isn't for you. Here, you need status." A few guests snickered in agreement, feeding his arrogance, but Malik's calm silence caused some to frown. There was something about him that couldn't be dismissed so easily. In that instant, the balance of power seemed to tip entirely one way. Yet Malik's stillness had planted the seed of a reversal no one anticipated. Connor grabbed a tablecloth, glanced at Malik, then deliberately ignored him, placing it over a chair next to a wealthy couple. As Malik moved to claim it, Connor blocked his hand. "Not for you. Newcomers sit elsewhere." His words were gentle but sharp, each syllable piercing the air. Malik paused, hand retreating, and simply nodded, his eyes gliding over Connor with calm assurance. Yet in that silence, the accumulating contempt was palpable. One guest leaned forward, whispering, "He probably doesn't know the rules here." A few chuckles rippled out, mixing with the soft music to heighten the discomfort. Malik approached the railing chair, intending to sit. Connor immediately stepped in, pulling the chair back, his tone half mocking. "Don't you know the rules here? This seat's for high-tier guests." These repeated, seemingly minor gestures erected an invisible wall, keeping Malik out of the social fold. But instead of exploding, he remained silent, his gaze patient yet deep, making a few nearby guests stop mid-laugh. Connor, unaware of the shift, grew more confident, convinced he held all the power. His arrogance was about to push him toward an open confrontation he hadn't foreseen. The music played softly, golden lights reflecting off the water, yet the atmosphere on deck was heavy. Gavin Moore approached Connor, standing beside him, half serious, half scornful. "You can't sit there. That chair's reserved for VIP guests." Malik placed a hand on the chair, replying calmly, "And what makes someone a VIP, sir?" A simple question, yet it made Gavin pause briefly. Connor shot a glance, then regained his composure with a light shove, forcing Malik back toward the walkway. "The rules are clear. You don't belong here. Don't make this difficult." Sofia Alvarez, sitting nearby, felt a twinge of unease. She turned slightly, still watching. On Malik's face, there was no resentment, only an unusual calm. He neither resisted nor yielded, just stood tall, staring directly at Connor. The moment felt like two opposing forces, one wielding temporary superficial authority, the other exuding unpredictable self-mastery. No one realized that Malik's silence was the ember preparing for a flare-up. Connor believed he had successfully removed the unworthy intruder. In reality, he had unwittingly set the stage for a public confrontation he never wanted. Connor leaned to lift a tray of drinks from another server. He passed by Malik as if casually but deliberately pressed his shoe against Malik's foot. Malik lost his balance, staggering a step. In that instant, a cocktail on Connor's tray flew up, splashing crimson all over Malik's face and white shirt. Glass shattered across the deck, tiny shards sparkling under the lights. Some guests laughed, others covered their mouths. The air shifted from surprise to discomfort, mingled with morbid curiosity. Connor straightened, flicking his hand as if it were a minor accident. "Oops, sorry, but maybe you shouldn't be standing here." His voice dripped with sweetness laced with subtle triumph. Malik wiped his face with his hand, droplets forming red streaks on the wood like wounds. He said nothing, only looked at Connor with calm, unwavering depth. Gavin stepped forward, resting a hand on Connor's shoulder as if to commend him. Let him be. Not worth it. The dismissive attitude made the humiliation even more public. The scene marked a turning point. Subtle scorn had now become a visible stain for all to see. The deck felt like a social court. Whispers erupted. "Bet he doesn't have an invitation. I heard only regulars sit in this area." Some pulled out their phones, aiming cameras at Malik. On screen, his soaked face revealed every detail. A young guest whispered to a friend, "This'll get so many views online." Connor stepped back, arms crossed, letting the crowd enforce pressure. Gavin sipped his drink. Indifferent, no one offered Malik a towel or a helping hand. The deck seemed to unanimously erase his presence. Only Sofia Alvarez frowned quietly. She scanned the scene and gripped her phone tightly, already recording. Malik stood, droplets falling to the deck. He did not beg, did not retreat. His silence made many uneasy, as if expecting him to collapse or lash out. But he only remained, eyes sharp, scanning every face. Social pressure pressed in, isolating him amid the circle of gazes. Yet within that circle, a spark of hope ignited, the first witness silently preparing for the truth to emerge. Malik lifted his hand toward a nearby server. "Please, could I have a towel or some water to wash my face?" A young crew member stepped forward for a moment, but Gavin Moore immediately stopped him with a cold glare. He shook his head, his voice firm. "No, he gets nothing. Handle it yourself." The words cut through the air like a knife. No one reacted. A few guests continued to clink their glasses, pretending not to hear. Connor laughed out loud, adding, "Here, service is only for those who deserve it. Got it?" Malik took a deep breath, saying nothing. He wiped his face with his wet sleeve, a calm gesture that only made the tension thicker. Every motion he made was like a mirror, reflecting the cruelty of the way people were treating him. An older guest frowned slightly, but quickly looked away, unwilling to get involved. The entire deck seemed to tacitly agree to erase his presence. The refusal of the most basic needs, a towel, a sip of water, became an unspoken declaration. He didn't belong here. In that moment, Malik stood like a lone man in front of an invisible wall of prejudice, yet his eyes did not falter. On the contrary, that silence made some people shiver, sensing something in him that couldn't be pushed around. Connor wasn't finished. He stepped forward, grabbing another drink and raising it like a toast, his voice dripping with mockery. "Let's raise a glass to this lost guest, the only one who thinks he has the right to be somewhere he doesn't belong." Laughter erupted. A few guests chimed in, clinking spoons against glasses, creating a sharp, jarring noise. Gavin remained seated, sipping his drink, eyes glinting with quiet approval. Connor moved closer to Malik, pointing toward the stairs. "Go downstairs before you make an even bigger fool of yourself." Malik looked him square in the eye. No anger, no trembling, just a heavy silence. That gaze made Sofia Alvarez, still filming quietly, feel her heart race. She realized there was something about this man that Connor couldn't see. But Connor, drunk on fake applause, grew even more confident. He leaned in, speaking low enough for only a few nearby to hear. "People like you should be serving, not sitting at the same level." Mocking laughter spread. The air felt like a performance, with Malik as the humiliated centerpiece. Yet it was his calmness that unintentionally made Connor look absurd, performing before an audience growing uneasy. In that instant, no one noticed. Arrogance had reached its peak, and from there, it could only fall. Connor stepped back, waving his hand as if giving orders. "All right, get him downstairs. I don't want this scene ruining the vibe." Gavin immediately nodded, signaling the security team. Reed Lawson, the captain standing near the stairs, paused for a fraction of a second. He knew he'd just received a direct order, but something in Malik's eyes gave him pause. A security guard stepped forward, hand on the radio. "Do you need an escort, sir?" Gavin replied coldly, "If necessary, get him out now." The threat was clear in every word. Malik was surrounded by stairs, as if only a single step remained before he would be forced off the deck. A few guests nodded in agreement, even whispering, "Right, maintain appearances." Sofia gripped her phone tightly, capturing every moment. She bit her lip, feeling the injustice escalate, while Connor stood there with a triumphant smile, convinced victory was his. Reed studied Malik more closely. He noticed the polished watch on Malik's wrist, engraved with a familiar symbol. A flicker of doubt sparked. This man was no ordinary intruder. Tension thickened, the air nearly solid. A forced removal was about to be carried out. Yet behind Malik's silence, there was a signal that a storm was brewing. Connor lost all restraint. He stepped forward, pressing hard against Malik's chest, shoving him back. The sudden push sent Malik crashing onto the wooden deck, the impact sounding harsh and sharp. A cocktail in a nearby guest's hand wobbled and spilled, red soaking Malik's vest. The deck went silent. The music stopped. Only the distant sound of waves remained. Some guests gasped, covering their mouths. Others laughed awkwardly, unsure how to react. Connor inhaled, folding his arms. "See? Much easier now. Don't bother anyone else." Malik lay there for a few seconds, breathing evenly. His eyes looked up, not with weakness, but with unwavering determination. He slowly pushed himself up, each droplet of cocktail rolling down, leaving red streaks across the wooden deck. No one spoke. Gavin frowned but didn't intervene. Reed Lawson stepped forward, about to say something, then stopped. Sofia kept her camera steady, heart pounding. In that moment, the humiliation had reached its peak. Malik had been publicly knocked down in front of dozens of eyes, yet in the thick silence, everyone sensed this was not the end. This was the calm before the storm. Malik slowly straightened, breathing evenly, eyes locked on Connor without a blink. No words. He pulled a handkerchief from his suit pocket and calmly wiped his face, each movement deliberate enough to make the crowd hold its breath. That silence was heavier than any argument. Connor faltered for a split second, masking it with a smirk. Silence means you agree. But his smile no longer drew the chuckles it once did. Sofia Alvarez, phone still clutched tightly, immediately hit send on the video she had just recorded, forwarding it to a trusted contact in the press. Her fingers shook, heart racing, yet she knew she had done the right thing. Reed Lawson couldn't take his eyes off Malik either. As the light glinted across the deck, he caught sight of the logo engraved on Malik's watch, a familiar emblem of the corporation that owned the yacht. Doubt sparked in Reed's mind, suddenly realizing the situation was far from ordinary. Malik remained silent, scanning the crowd with a composed gaze. A few guests quickly lowered their eyes, avoiding his stare. No one could understand how this man, humiliated to the extreme, could still stand as solid as a rock. A tense silence stretched across the deck, taut as a drawn bowstring. Everyone felt it. Something monumental was about to happen. Reed's phone buzzed in his pocket, shattering the quiet. He answered, lowering his voice. "Hello." On the other end, a hurried voice spoke. "Captain Lawson, urgent confirmation. Mr. Malik Bennett is the official owner of this yacht. All decisions on deck require his approval." Reed froze, eyes wide as he stared at Malik, gripping the phone, stammering. The owner?" Gavin Moore noticed, frowning. "What's going on?" But before he could move closer, Sofia held up her phone, screen glowing with the video she had just sent. Curious guests glanced over and immediately whispered as they saw the entire incident of Connor shoving Malik recorded in clear detail. Connor, sensing attention shifting, tried to laugh it off. It was just a joke. But the weak laughter was swallowed by the growing murmurs. The atmosphere pivoted dizzyingly fast. Ridicule turned into anxious whispers. Reed looked at Gavin, voice firm and serious. "We've made a serious mistake." Malik still stood quietly. Yet now, every gaze on him carried a new caution, as if they were realizing an unexpected truth. The yacht deck fell silent, save for the waves lapping against the hull. All eyes were on Malik Bennett. He slowly adjusted his collar, then reached into the pocket of his dark suit. A luxurious leather wallet emerged, and from it, he produced a metal card engraved with the logo of the corporation that owned the yacht. His voice was calm but authoritative, each word landing like a hammer. "Do you know who I am? I am the owner of this yacht." A wave of astonishment erupted. Some gasped. Others quickly lowered their glasses. Gavin Moore went stiff, face pale. Connor Hayes blinked repeatedly. His confident smile vanished, replaced by clear panic. Reed Lawson nodded, confirming, "I just received official notice from the company. Everything he says is correct." A heavy silence fell. Sofia gripped her phone tighter, as if to ensure what had just happened wasn't a hallucination. Guests around began to shift their demeanor, eyes changing from contempt to awe tinged with fear. Malik scanned the crowd, calm yet unassuming. He didn't need to shout. A single concise statement had overturned the entire situation. The truth struck like lightning, burning away every trace of arrogance on the deck. Connor stepped back, sweat beading his forehead. I didn't know, I was just..." He stammered, trying to justify himself, but Malik didn't look at him. He turned to Reed Lawson instead. His voice was firm, decisive. "From now on, he will no longer work on this vessel. Remove Connor Hayes from the deck immediately." Reed nodded, signaling security. Two officers stepped forward, grasping Connor's arms. He struggled. "Wait, I was following the rules. I didn't mean to." His pleas echoed in the tense air. Gavin Moore stepped forward, face pale. "Mr. Bennett, I take responsibility. Please, give me a chance." Malik cut him off, eyes cold. "You're the manager, and you allowed this to happen right under your nose. You will answer to the board. I need no excuses." The crowd was silent. A few guests began to clap, not in glee, but because justice had finally been served. Connor was dragged away, eyes filled with despair. Gavin kept his head down, saying nothing. Malik took a deep breath, then addressed the stunned guests. On this yacht, respect is not a privilege. It is a principle. At that moment, the line between contempt and admiration completely dissolved. Connor had been escorted off. Gavin Moore's head remained bowed, and the yacht deck was transformed. Guests who had mocked moments ago now stood in silence, weighed down with embarrassment. Some approached Malik, quietly nodding, whispering belated apologies. Malik did not reproach them, merely acknowledging with a composed nod. That very calmness magnified the respect he commanded. Sofia, still holding her phone, stepped forward shyly. I recorded everything. If you want, I can send it to your lawyer." Malik smiled faintly. "Thank you. Your courage will not be forgotten." Sofia blushed, pride shining in her eyes. Guests nearby looked at her differently. The quiet woman who filmed had become an acknowledged witness. The mood on the deck shifted. Mocking glances turned into admiration. Clean towels and fresh drinks were brought by other staff, this time placed respectfully before Malik. A new circle formed, but this time Malik was at its center, commanding the respect he deserved. The sun dipped toward the horizon, casting a gentle golden light over the deck. Malik stood at the bow, the breeze lightly stirring his suit. Before him, the vast sea stretched out, calm as a final note of a symphony. He turned toward the remaining guests, voice deep and resonant. "Never judge the power or value of a person by appearances. Respect is not a gift. It is the foundation for coexistence." The yacht deck fell completely silent. A few guests nodded, some even teared up, realizing they had just witnessed a hard-earned lesson. Sofia smiled quietly, knowing the video in her hands would spread widely. Soon, the image of the man humiliated and then turning the tables went viral, becoming a hot topic online. Connor disappeared into the shadows. Gavin faced the consequences ahead. Reed Lawson exhaled, aware he had just witnessed a moment that could go down in the yacht's history. As the yacht departed the port, the image of Malik standing tall at the bow etched itself into everyone's memory. From contempt to admiration, the journey was complete, leaving behind an enduring message.